want to introduce you to Bob Nevins, who is the co-founder of an entity right here in our neighborhood called Saratoga WarHorse. Bob was, in 1971, wounded in Vietnam. He was a medevac pilot with the 101st Airborne. And upon his return to the United States and to New York, he hooked up with the idea of working with horses to deal with the post-traumatic stress of veterans. And he has opened his program to veterans anywhere in the country. And what you're going to hear is a story of how working with veterans and bringing them back into the fold, he has allowed horses on the farm in which he works to be a part of a process of healing. My great pleasure to introduce Bob Nevins.
Okay, what I'd like to talk to you about today is this project, Saratoga WarHorse. And we're going to try to share with you some information that we are and information that we are not. So again, it's about awareness for you. How this impacts you or we connect directly, I'm not sure yet. We do want to speak with the veteran court advocates because part of our program would tie into that. So we'll give you a little bit of a background. I've got a couple of videos here that I'll show you on what we do. And then if you have some questions, we'll take those questions. I do want to introduce a couple of my associates. This is Janelle Schmidt. Janelle handles all our administrative functions at WarHorse. And Melody Squires, our lead instructor and trainer of other instructors for the program. So if I had to try to put this in some context for now, I would say that we are a confidential, peer-to-peer equine experience. Even though we use horses, the horses are just a vehicle by which we accomplish what we do. But without the horses, we'd be back in the mode of talk therapy. So we come out of talk therapy and we have an action program. And the action portion of this is the catalyst for the change that takes place with the veterans. So the issues we're concerned about, mainly, we're dealing with the suicide issue. Okay, we're all familiar with the numbers, we're all familiar with the tragedy, but leading to suicide, we're dealing with anxiety, depression, big component you're all familiar with, the sexual assault, okay, medication, alcoholism, all of these issues are part of the end result where somebody decides enough is enough and they want to check out. So what we've come up with is a program that even though I target an individual who may be suicidal, by doing what we do, we're intercepting them earlier in the process. And if you look at this poster that we use, a little slogan here, trouble sleeping. We don't have, when we talk to a veteran, I don't have to go through a 3-month evaluation. If a veteran calls me and all I ask him is, how are you sleeping? And the response I get is, what, are you kidding? I have not slept in years. We're talking years now, okay? So I know that that individual is in a state, or their mind is in a state, that the lack of sleep is the beginning of the spiral that winds up getting you at the VA with the medication, the whole 9 yards. So what I'm going to show you is a couple of videos. The first video we did in-house. The second video was done by ESPN television. They came to Saratoga when they heard about us, and they wanted to do the story. Now, it's a little difficult for us to do the story because it's a confidential program. And the way this works, if a veteran calls us, it doesn't matter where they live in the country, We will fly them into Saratoga. We'll pay for the hotel, we'll pay for the airfare, we pay for everything. Because typically you're dealing with an individual who will not even leave their house. And if they're not going to leave their house, they're not making travel plans, they're not doing any of the things that we would consider normal. Okay? The beauty of this is, and you know, we can answer the questions later, but we've got cases, and we've actually had now researchers come in, document what we do, and they're publishing this in a medical journal. And what they're looking at is all the scales that the VA uses to determine what degree of disability they're going to assign to somebody, you know, post-traumatic stress, anxiety disorder, whatever they're labeling somebody with. Another thing we look at very closely is there are no labels with what we do. You don't come to me with post-traumatic stress. All I care about is you're not sleeping, that's good enough for us. Right? When we put an individual through the program, and we're going to show you a couple of, like I say, clips, I want you to watch what happens to the veterans, because what you're witnessing is the beginning of transformation, healing. And we've taken individuals from sleeping in the closet, suicidal, to being on a dean's list in college in 6 months. And we do this in one weekend, because what we think is happening is whatever puts you into that frame of mind that you're in as a veteran, whether it's a traumatic event, sexual assault, you are shut down. And there's nobody that we know of that can talk you out of that cave. And that's part of the problem. So the whole veteran court issue, if you remember the case study that the young lady showed, in the first sentence it said, arrested for burglary, but he was intoxicated at the time. There's something happens long before you become addicted to alcohol or drugs, whatever. Part of what happens is your experience, okay? What we do is we go to the root cause of the experience. We don't talk about the experience. We don't tell war stories. We've all been there. We've all done it, okay? So we're just taking somebody back to the root cause, and when we do this procedure with the horse, the emotional connection is so powerful that it's as if we've triggered something in the brain that's been shut off. And we've actually had that kind of feedback. You'll probably see some of that in the video where veterans talk about that. And the two things they say to us every time is, I was skeptical before I came, and I can't explain what happened to me, okay? And that's the beauty of it, because the researchers all want the empirical data. Show us this, show us that, do this, do that. We say, well, we don't care. We're paying for it ourselves. We'll just do it and take care of the veteran and solve the problem, okay? So, so we are participating in research because we are talking to the Pentagon, we are talking to people who do care, but there's no need for me to criticize any government officials or whatever. People know they're frustrated because the system is not working. So we just kind of bypass the system, go right to the veteran. One phone call can get them into the program. They get the help they need, and then they go and they tell their buddies. When they tell their buddies, I've tried it all, and this is the only thing that's worked for me. You know, we know we're doing the right thing. So let me show you this first video. It'll be just kind of a recap of what I'm talking about. Then we'll show you the second video, which actually will be playing this weekend again on television through ESPN. And then we'll answer some questions, see if we can help you clear up any misconceptions, okay? Because a lot of what we do is not traditional, and we'd like to kind of think outside the box here a little bit, especially with the Pentagon. They're finally acknowledging what we do does not work. So they're starting to reach out to the communities for help. And this is something we talked to them about 2 years ago. But now they're starting to use our language because with the numbers that continue to increase, you know, they realize they've got to do something different than they're doing.
Saratoga Springs, New York may not be the most idyllic place in America, but it's close. A city made famous by its historic racetrack. It's the summer's home to the sport of kings and the royalty of thoroughbreds. 10 miles from the rush of competition and the chase for purses sits Song Hill Farm, host to horses on a different mission. Retired thoroughbreds recruited to help returning veterans still suffering from a war they can't leave behind.
December 4th, 2006, my best friend, Nicholas Turcotte, was killed in action right in front of me, and that changed it completely.
Turcotte, riding with his fellow soldiers in Iraq, in the last seat with the glasses on, had just returned to his unit from a stateside leave. That December day, while on a mission near Al-Nazira, Iraq, his armored vehicle rolled over. The crash killed him. He was 23 years old.
It meant a lot. The best brother anybody could ask for. It completely shut me down. I went from a happy 18-year-old kid to a 20-year-old man that didn't want anybody to ask me about any good experiences in Iraq, any bad experiences. Just took my life and did a 180 with it.
Bob Nevins understands war, its pain, and its echo. Flying a medevac chopper for the 101st Airborne in Vietnam, wounded in action in 1971, Nevins returned home to become a pilot and, in time, an avid horseman. Working with thoroughbreds, he sensed a peace in the animals and wanted to share it with those he believed most needed that comfort, soldiers of a different generation.
I realized then that there was some kind of deep emotional connection that actually opened people up.
It's called Saratoga WarHorse, a 3-day program Nevins helped to create about a year ago, where veterans struggling with war trauma, depression, and displacement come to meet horses, many facing uncertain futures of their own.
We know you're struggling, we know that you're shut down, and I say, I'm not here to fix anyone, but I am here to give them an experience that can change their life.
For many of the servicemen, it's their first time anywhere near a paddock. Their first order, build a round corral, a pen for the horses they're about to meet. And then, inside the pen they've built, each veteran is paired with his horse. Man and animal, warrior and warhorse. In the pen, somehow, something broken begins to heal. A bond starts to take shape.
Good boy. Come on. Good boy. Come on. Feel on top of the world. That was amazing. I didn't think a horse would bond that quick with somebody and trust them, but he did.
almost right away. There you go. Is that good stuff?
There you go.
A weekend does not erase a war, but it can stir peace, and perhaps with it, progress.
It brought back the happiness I had lost from going to Iraq. This is the first time I've truly been happy since I've been home.
Because this is almost a connection for them at the soul level, where they start to feel again who they are after being shut down for so long. So if I can do something about it, I'm going to do it. This is about action, not about lip service. So that's why I do it. You agree? So what we're doing here is we're creating the National Center here in Saratoga. And we can continue to bring veterans in from around the country. And we'd like to put about 700 a year through the program. But the individuals we're looking for are the ones that the mental health professionals are already talking to. And they know they need something. Send them to Saratoga. It's free. We'll pay for it. It's done. Okay? We're talking the active duty Army, Pentagon, you know, but you know the story about you can lead a horse to water, right? So the more veterans that go through the program, the more data we accumulate, and the more effective we are in showing what we do to those that really could make a big difference with this. But whether the government buys into this eventually or not, it doesn't matter, because we can do it anyway without them, and we're paying for it. So that's how that's working. Anybody have any particular questions? Yes, sir.
We experienced some of this with that in California on the veterans retreat we did. Are you guys connected with other equine therapy groups?
Right. So the question is, are we connected with any other groups? Well, the answer is no. And the reason for that is there are a lot of well-meaning people who might have horses. And they know there's something about horses that's wonderful. But if you're not doing this procedure that we're demonstrating, because what we've done there is Melody has taught the veterans the horse's language. So the reason a horse comes to the person in the center of the round pen is because the horse trusts you. And it's unnatural because man is a predator. That's why we do what we do to each other. We're predators. A horse will flee from danger. When a predator can communicate to another species that I will not hurt you, then the horse bonds with them for its own survival. If we were smart enough to do that ourselves, instead of kill each other, okay? So a lot of things will come out of this program as it grows nationally, because the communities will start to see the invisible wounds that most of the veterans, going back to World War I, I mean, if there are any still alive, they're suffering from invisible wounds. World War II, they went through it because everybody was in the same boat at the same time, so we didn't talk about it. But all those grumpy fathers, all those angry fathers, all those kids that couldn't connect with the old man, this is what was going on. So Vietnam, 58,000 names on the wall in Washington. More than that have killed themselves since then. And now the current generation of soldiers, they're exceeding that record. And that's why the Pentagon is getting worried, because it looks bad, okay? Just me.
I'm going to ask you two questions. The first is whether or not you have ever seen the movie Buck.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so, okay, saw the movie, yeah, okay.
Second question is, do you need to train your horses in the procedure?
Nothing?
Nothing?
You don't have to train the horse, it's the horse's language. What Melody does is train the veteran to understand instead of trying to force the horse to accommodate you, why don't you just take the time to learn a simple language, and you eliminate the flight instinct, the fear, and then the horse wants to be with you. All these horse trainers, the whole business of breaking a horse, you see the horse goes berserk when it rides, that's just natural instinct in a horse. You can eliminate that by doing this procedure first, and then the horse says, oh, you wanted to ride me? You see? But you put a human on a horse's back the first time, and thousands of years of evolution kick in and says, that's a mountain lion, it's going to eat me. So when they look at a human, a horse looks at a human, with your eyes in front of your head, you're a predator. And the horse has to constantly evaluate, are you going to do me harm, or are you going to help me? Well, the horse doesn't really think about it because they just live in the moment. When you communicate with the horse and you say, it's okay, then this connection can take place. So, did that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was curious. I was wondering if is there more than just walking around in a corral, or is it just that?
Well, that's the end of the procedure you're seeing there. We do a whole morning of PowerPoint presentations and education, teaching about psychology and what's going on. And the reason we use the thoroughbreds is because the veteran can actually relate to that horse who, like I say, on your way to the Kentucky Derby one day, sidelined by injury the next day, and now you're a throwaway, See, they understand. I'm highly trained. This is what I signed on for, and now this is how I'm being treated after the fact. So there's a lot of hidden anger, okay? A lot of stuff going on below the surface, right? And so we can do this all in one day, teaching the language, because it all comes down to what happens in the round pen, and we've actually never had a failure. So we're pretty consistent.
Are you interested in replicating this in other places? Are you interested in keeping what you have with, people interested in participating from all over the country?
Well, we need to control it, because this is part of the other question. Well, if well-meaning people start thinking, oh, I have a horse, so I'm going to have a veterans program, and they get out there and they start brushing horses and they start hanging around horses. If you've got 6 months, that's great. But it's not the way it works. So the people that love horses, they want to share that love of the horse with you. But a veteran's not interested in becoming a horse person. They're interested in getting on with their life, recovering their life. And that procedure is what is the catalyst for making that happen. So we honor the horse, we love the horse, all of that, but, veterans either want to come back and work for us, or they want to take the horse home, but they don't need to take the horse home, because now they're going home and they're empowered. And this is a big word that's coming out back from the medical community. Wow, these people are empowered. Well, of course they're empowered. They went in the round pen, they made the change themselves. I didn't do anything, you see? And that's part of the key.
You would want to offer this as often as possible. And so, is it possible to see yourself at some point in time being able to train others to do it your way?
Yeah.
With your theory, with your practice,
right.
with your guidance, your mentoring,
right.
so that more people would have access to it.
Right.
Is that possible?
Yep, that's already in the works. So we're planning on kind of being the Starbucks of this procedure and the way it happens. And if you want to participate in our program, well, you're going to have to follow our guidelines here, because we're paying for it. We're giving you the horses, we're giving you the funding, we're doing everything. All you have to do is provide a facility, and then we'll train your people to do this. But there's no mixing and matching here. It's another thing we won't get into here. Right. But, autistic children are benefiting from this, amputees are benefiting from stuff like this. But we deal only with the psychological, the invisible wound. We don't mix and match other programs. And right now it's a veterans only, even though, I mean, we can tell you 100 stories here, and we don't want to get too far off track, but we have let some civilians come through the program under special circumstances that were in some way advancing our program. And I'll give you one quick example of that. We knew the woman wanted to come in for a reason. We accommodated her. She came in. She was, we didn't ask what the issue was. We assumed. She went through the program, finished the program. A week later came back to us, told us she'd been in therapy for 20 years for sexual assault. That procedure she went through with us was so profound. Her therapist wants to start a sexual assault group for women to put them through our program only. You know, that's not me saying that or suggesting it. That's what the mental health professionals are starting to see. Wow, what a tool this could be for us. That's right, but I'm mostly interested in taking care of the veterans at this point. Yes, sir.
How crazy do you have to be? You have to be suicidal to get it?
No, because if we can intercept an individual on the way, and on the way is, if you're not sleeping, okay, I already know that there's something going on here, okay?
I've done a lot of therapy since I got out of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And when I first got home, it was nightmares and no sleep.
Right.
And for years, I functioned on minimal sleep.
Right.
So I've done a lot of work until I do sleep some.
Right.
But I could probably change that if I stay up and drink coffee all night.
Yeah, right.
And I can get in.
Yeah, that's right. And if that doesn't work, oh yeah, okay. You know, then the medication starts, right? The drinking, all that stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
work on my meds, been off medication for about 3 years now.
oh yeah, okay. But you're a Vietnam vet, right?
Yeah.
It's a long time to have to deal with this. So if you want to get a hold of us, you know, you're welcome to come and participate. You know. Yes.
Who does pay for it?
Well, I paid for it for the first couple of years myself, and then people started trying to give me money, you know, so we started accepting it. And now we have individuals from the thoroughbred industry that have started stepping up and giving us money because they recognize the win-win situation. We're helping their horses find new careers. So it makes them look good because they're not losing these horses to slaughterhouses or whatever. But that's the same thing that's happening with the veteran, you know. So part of what the message we're sending to the country as we go along is, as a society, we are accountable for our veterans, okay? And just because they're invisible wounds doesn't mean somebody's not suffering. So when the country starts to see what's happening to these individuals, they're reacting to it emotionally, and they understand, oh, now I see. But you start getting the VA involved and all of that, everybody gets lost. And then the country thinks the VA is taking care of the problem. You know, when you got 85% of the veterans who won't even go near the VA, something's not right here, okay? So the country has to step up and say, we didn't realize, okay? Thoroughbred industry is saying, okay, hey, we didn't want this happen to our horses. You know, these horses live better than we do, okay? But now we're creating new careers for those horses. So to go back to your question, we create the National Center here in Saratoga, and then we can have satellite facilities around the country that can just duplicate what we do. We won't charge them for it, but they have to do it properly. You have to use, what we do is healthy, smart, vital horses, not a broken down horse standing in a, you know, a pen someplace, and you're supposed to be getting therapeutic value out of it, okay? So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but it all comes down to that last 15 minutes in the round pen for the veteran. Anybody else? Anybody have any technical horse questions? Melody can kind of help you with that. Yes, sir.
They are also used to treat autistic children, I understand?
Well, not these horses. Yeah. Yeah, right. And those are the programs that are starting to spring up around the country because they're realizing that it does help those children, okay? And we're all for that, but for me personally, interested in a veteran who is, you saw that kid in the video, 18-year-old, 2 years later, 20-year-old, and his life is done, so.
What's your success rate?
For us, 100%. We've had a couple of close calls where we thought, gee, that it didn't have an impact on the individual, and we found out within weeks that both those individuals had gone back to their mental health professional and started singing big time. And that's how we find out about it. They started talking to their professional, you know, where before, one of them said to us, how did you do that? It took me 18 weeks to get them to even talk about it. And now they're telling me everything, you know, I wanted to know, because now they're letting it go. That's what it's about. It's about leaving the baggage in the round pen, leaving the anger in the round pen, let it go. You know?
You take about 6 people for a training or
Yeah.
session? Yeah. And these people come from all over the world, all over the country?
All over the country, yeah. Yeah.
And you've been doing this since when?
We've been doing it for about 3 years, but the last year we've been doing it every month. We bring a new group in and do it. And part of things that we learned as we went along is you take 6 veterans from different Army, Navy, Air Force, we've had them all, male, female, same class. You put them in that class, they all come in, shut down, but when they leave, they have bonded. They bonded with the horses, and strangely enough, and I'm not the mental health professional, so I wouldn't have thought of this part, but this becomes their new benchmark. It's not the guy left on the battlefield, you see? We survived this together. Look what we can do now. How empowering is this? We're one of the few people in the country that are horse whisperers. See, so I make him Robert Redford the horse whisperer, or at least Melody does, and there's no stigma attached here. Nobody's getting mental health treatment. They didn't need it. They needed to be opened up, okay? How could you go through experiences like this or a sexual assault and people think that you're not going to be shut down, okay? So nothing I can say is going to change that, but what happens between that horse and that human in the round pen changes everything.
You said those horses are not trained, right?
Right.
So if I go to your class and then I just happen to go to another place that has horses, can I go and talk to that horse? That horse will follow me the same way as your class?
Yeah, so her question is, the horse is not trained to do that, can she do it with another horse? Well, yep. If you took that round pen and created that enclosure, because the reason a horse is running is because you, as a predator, okay, the horse is not going to stand around waiting for you to talk to them because they already see you're a predator, so they're looking for an escape route. And the reason you have the round pen is because when they begin to realize they can't get away from you, now they start talking to you in horse language. And if you're prepared and you know the language, you'll respond to them, and the individuals you saw were successful in communicating with the horse in its language, so the horse came to them. Now you could do that with any horse. You can do it with a Shetland pony or a Clydesdale. It's all the same language to them. But if you don't know the language, good luck. Or you better be a horse trainer.
How'd you come up with this? Is this based on your own experience, or was that another model?
Well, the way we came up with this is this technique was, they were starting to use this with horse trainers who were physically abusing horses to get them to cooperate and to train them. Well, when they realized that the horses had their own language, and then individuals started training horse people to communicate with horses in their own language, then it all started to change for them. But of course, there are horse people who would never go along with this because it's not the way my old man told me. Right. And if you're not beating the horse, he's not paying attention, all wrong. See? So what happened with us is I wound up doing this. Melody taught me how to do this. And I say, gee, there's got to be an application here, because I'm not really a horse guy, okay? And what I did is when I started seeing the whole veteran issue, which only reminded me of all the guys that I knew since Vietnam that have killed themselves, okay? I wonder if this will work on them. And not only did it work on them, but it works better on them than it does the horses. For a veteran to come back, they're outside the herd, okay? They don't know how to get back in the herd. And you, not you personally, but society, sending them the wrong message doesn't help the situation. Then getting involved in a system that fails them doesn't help. So this is the key and the root of all this change. So our function here in Saratoga will be to put as many veterans through this program, and the younger we get them, the better, okay? But this will still work on my generation, okay? Because my generation, in a lot of cases, are still waiting to be welcomed back into the herd. And it's not done, folks, with flag waving and happy talk, okay? It's done with action, okay? So that's what we're doing here. And we're helping the public at the same time, because the public doesn't know this, you see? They don't realize it. So that's why veterans get angry, because they're frustrated, okay? So we're helping the country see what they have helped create and bringing relief to the veteran in the process, okay? So unless there's something else, I think that pretty much sums up what we do. And the last question, or last comment, so if you know a veteran, this is what we say, if you know a veteran that you think could benefit from that, remember, it's no charge. All they have to do is go to the website, SaratogaWarHorse.com, look at that, tell your friends, tell somebody, let them come. It takes about 2 months for a veteran to be looking at this website 2-3 times a night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Why? They're not sleeping, okay? And then eventually they call us. Or the wife calls us and says, I've had it, okay? And then the wife makes them come, and then after they come, they thank the wife for saving their life, you know? So, okay? Thank you.